Hey, I'm making this video to talk about a serious issue in society and in the Catholic Church, which I'm a devout Catholic. This is not coming from someone who hates the Catholics or someone who hates Jesus at all. It's coming from me, a guy who tries to go to Mass multiple times every day of the week, doing whatever I can and everything I can to be a holy man, to learn about my faith, to live my faith, to share the faith with others. And increasingly, I've had an extremely hard life, and I'm Gen Z, so this video goes out kind of to everyone, but I think especially to my generation and to Gen Alpha, who's going to be even more, excuse the language, they're going to be even more fucked than we are, I think, in every way. And we, as Gen Z, are really messed up in a way that none of the older generations understand. Maybe our generation can understand the older generations, but it doesn't go both ways. They don't understand us. And the story of my life is maybe a bit of a microcosm here in this story, or this story is a microcosm of it, where you just get pushed away from opportunity. Your potential doesn't get recognized. There's no charity. There's no concern for my well-being or the well-being of an individual. And so I keep getting invited to these student dinners and breakfasts and stuff like this through the chaplaincy. Like, my friends, a lot of them run it or have been going for like 5 years because they've done their bachelor's and then they keep going, with their schooling. And a lot of them are running it. Like, at least 3 of them I know are running it. Maybe not friends, acquaintances, but they always welcome me, they invite me. And so I came last night and it was great. And I thought, wow, I don't think any of these people, I think they're like everyone else. Like, I'm not expecting amazing things because, frankly, I think people are not great nowadays, and we need to change who we want to be as a culture, as a community, as a church, as Gen Z. And we'll understand Gen Alpha because we've lived with the internet and all the addictions and all the dysfunctional relationships and hyper loneliness, etc., that is unique to our generation. The health problems, even. I think we have a uniquely high level of health problems in our youth right now that's not been the case ever, like, at this level. So they invited me. Sorry if I lost my train of thought there. I don't remember where I was going, but they invited me, went last night. Oh yeah, I thought it was great. I thought, these people are like anyone else. I don't have high hopes. I have reasonable hopes. I have high hopes, but I have reasonable expectations, I should say. But high hopes. And I thought, this is great. Like, I need to go be around people because it's so hard to keep doing all my good habits when I'm sick, going through extreme stress, like really tough stuff that I won't get into, at least in this video. And I've been through so much pain in my life. The things we go through, we carry our whole lives. We can heal, we can learn to carry it, but we do have to carry it. I think that's part of carrying your cross, is all the things you've been through. So, it's really tough. Nature abhors a vacuum. When I'm not around people, nature's gonna pull whatever good and bad stuff in to fill that, whether that's playing the piano, going to the gym, or it's binge watching or doom scrolling, etc. List the vices, the addictive behaviors that our generation is swamped in and like destroyed by. Those are the things we fall into when we lack social connection, or we lack something we need, like sleep, like enough food, like safety, like meaning, and a mission and things that we're pursuing and skills we're developing, work that we're doing, creative projects, all this kind of stuff. Without that, which a lot of our generation doesn't have that, it's just this emptiness. And we go to cope because we've been taught from a young age. Like, I wasn't the iPad kids. My year wasn't the iPad kids, but they came a few years, maybe 5 years at most after us. So we're closely related, and we've been taught, go on your phone. For especially the men, watch pornography. Like, if you want to soothe yourself, if you got some need, the way you fulfill it is through 21st century vices. There's so many other things. Like, I see tons of gambling ads. I don't know how bad that is for people, but from talking to some other guys I know, they think it's also going to be a huge problem because all these, like, Gen Z influencers who have, like, young Gen Z audiences, they're just doing all these gambling ads and gambling live streams, and they're actually gambling, all this kind of stuff, along with, like, the roids and, like, this totally addicted culture on every level. Every level. I kind of just went through a few of them. I won't get into it. And so for me, going to these things is great. I realize that. I go, some of the people I know there, they weren't really there for me when I was dying in my car. But I should go anyway. They're not, like, the worst people. They weren't the people who were really hard on me, who were my really close friends who betrayed me. So it's not like I'm really going into the wolf's den. It's like a bit of uncomfort, a considerable amount of discomfort. But it's not ridiculously massive. It's not several nuclear bombs. It's, like, not so great combined with, or, like, pretty bad still, but combined with, there's a lot of great people. There's, like, 80 people at this thing, 90 people at this thing. I met this girl. She was amazing. I'm like, it seems like women like this exist. This is great. I know what I want now in a wife. Like, it was great. It was a great experience. I met these people who were super into music, and I finally got to talk to them about music and Catholic excellency, and I got to talk to people, and surprisingly, they shared my values and my views. Like, we saw eye to eye on things, and that means a lot, because I think I see things the right way, frankly. I've thought a lot about it. I've worked through a lot. I have a lot of experience. So whether it's political issues, cultural issues, moral issues, I know I'm right where I know I'm right. And that's a lot of things, because I've worked through a lot of things. And for someone to share that with me in this world that has been so wrong, so empty, so perverted, it's like, wow, this is so refreshing. Someone else came to these conclusions. Even in young people at church, I don't find a lot of people coming to these conclusions. Great. So I come back this morning because I wasn't able to sleep, dealing with a lot of tough stuff, doing a bit of work, all kinds of stuff. I won't even get into it right now, but just, like, struggling. And then I go for breakfast because I can't sleep. This is great. I need a meal. I haven't been eating properly. I haven't been able to afford groceries enough. So I'm, like, not eating properly. I haven't ate fruit in a while. I haven't ate vegetables in a while because those things are expensive. And it's easier to just, like, eat pasta all the time. Like, it's cheaper, I mean. And yeah, I get there, and this guy, older guy, like in his 60s, maybe almost, like 50s, 60s, early 60s, if 60s, or early 50s, somewhere early 50s to early 60s. And he's like, I don't know if he's the leader. I didn't ask him, like, if he runs the thing, but I know he helps out a lot with all the student chaplaincy stuff. And he pulls me aside and he goes, "Hey, Kyle, we met." I go, "Yeah, hi." And he goes, could I talk to you for a moment?" I go, "Sure." And so he pulls me aside. We go outside the doors where the breakfast is, and he says, Kyle, are you a student here? I go, no. He goes, okay, well, this is just for students. I go, okay, well, I keep getting invited. He goes, yeah, well, we've told people not to do that. And I didn't really bother arguing with him because there's no arguing with the older generation. There's no changing their mind. They're going to go to their graves not knowing how badly they fucked us, how badly they screwed up. And if they do start to realize, they're never going to realize it like we do. We realize it now better than someone who's going to start realizing in their 70s and die in their 80s, like who has 10 years or more to realize what's gone on. They're probably not going to realize it that much. They'll realize a lot compared to the 70 years of ignorance, but they're not going to realize what I realize now about how bad things are because they don't live it. They don't understand it. They're going to be sheltered from it probably enough that they'll never even get the real story of what we're living through. So, you know, I just kind of go, okay, like, or I don't know. The conversation didn't go much further. He tried to explain it a bit, which I appreciate. He said, you know, like, I think he said we said no to other people and stuff like that. But the difference is I'm being invited by the people who run it. My acquaintances, the people who are giving me these invitations. Many people, and they all welcome me when I show up at these events. They've been going for years. They've been going longer than anyone else. They're running it, a lot of them. So it's like, okay. And then this is, through the Catholic Church. Like, it's not like it's the student or the school program. This is a church program. And I'm university age. And I get, like, if it's just for students, I get that. Wake up and smell the roses, though. Smell the shit-covered roses. You've got all these young people, and you've got someone who's devout like me, who never got the opportunity, who's barely had any opportunities, I should say, to go to school and to get educated, because I've lived in such poverty. And I'm a devout Catholic. I'm a great influence on the other young Catholics who are there. I'm being invited. I need to eat, frankly. I need the community. We pray. I love the prayer. It's a great experience. And you're gatekeeping that from anyone who doesn't go to the school there. And it's like, this isn't a school team, though. This is a Catholic church. And it's for people who are student aged, right? Like, oh, you don't go to school, you can't come. It's like, that's not how the Catholic Church does things. And that's not what God wants. So I get it if it's just for students, but I'm voicing some legitimate errors with that thinking, because it is in the context of the Catholic Church. And then, there's no care for me. Like, I appreciate he tried to explain a bit, but he didn't ask, like, anything about me. There's no concern for me, for what I'm going through. You don't get to know me, nothing like that. There's no, oh, I see potential in this kid. Oh, I'm a father figure to this kid. Because every man and woman has the heart of a father and a mother, or they should. If they're a good man and a good woman, no matter if you're a nun, you're single, you're widowed, you're parents, you're married, you have the heart of a father or a mother. That's what we're made for. And the older generations have failed so badly at that our generation, Gen Z, is pioneering life. We don't know how to live without technology. And I'm saying, as a generation, are there some guys living on farms or some guys building their own houses on 20 acres that they bought? Yeah, but that's not the Gen Z story right now. The Gen Z story is you live at home and get criticized for living at home, even though you're living at home, so you don't get crippled by debt, trying to afford third world prices for groceries, rent, gas, car payments, and car insurance, not to mention your phone bill and these other things, like even a YouTube subscription, not to mention a gym subscription. They're so expensive nowadays. And, forget any other leisure or like going to the movies and stuff, Movie tickets are insane. You should be able to go take your family to the movies for like $5, and it's like, I don't know, $15 on a Tuesday when it's cheap or something like that. It's ridiculous. I don't go to the movies often. I'm not saying I do, but those are some spitball metrics of like where things are at. So that's the Gen Z story. And the boomers have failed spectacularly. Hate that generation. Some are good, but as a generation, they have failed and they have turned our country, the West as a whole. I'm in Canada right now. It's way worse than the US, I think. Maybe like state to state or like some specific cities would be really bad in the US. But Canada and Ontario, where I live, horrible. The prices are third world. The crime is through the roof. Our police tell us to leave our car keys by the door so that when armed robbers break in, they can take the keys without any further violence, as if people who come at you with a gun don't plan to go, or they only plan to go to this level of violence. As long as I leave my keys by the door, they're not going to come for me and my kids, or they're not going to come for me in my sleep, or they're not going to rummage through the rest of the house. Like, these leaders are castrated. They're leading us into ruin. They're not looking out for us. Authority is there to protect and provide. They're not doing that. Hence the story I'm bringing all this up. I get that was bobbing and weaving through the story, but hopefully that was coherent. Let me know if that made sense. So yeah, I didn't really argue with him. He said, but like, you can come for now. It's like, I wasn't gonna leave. Like, I'm here for breakfast. I'm gonna take food. And I don't, that's not stealing. I was invited. I've come all this way. I need to eat. I'm gonna eat, kind of thing. There's a Q&A after with the priest. I didn't stick around for that, but that priest is like notoriously bad. I know some of the guys who go there and they kind of like the priest, or like they're part of the chaplaincy, like they work in the chaplaincy, and so they don't really talk a lot of shit about him. But he's like well known for his parish and the cathedral of our diocese not allowing people to kneel for communion, which is like, I think that's like the ugly church thing where like it's the priest's own perversion and like something's really messed up with them. And they're projecting that and abusing their authority. And like, if I was to go to the cathedral or that church and be denied communion on the tongue, kneeling, like, I don't know if they'll do denying communion on the tongue. I think they're also not great about that. But kneeling as opposed to standing, which, by the way, you don't know, this is receiving God himself, not just as a symbol, not just spiritually. Body, blood, blah, 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 blah. Body, blood, soul, and divinity. That is Jesus in the Eucharist. It's not a symbol. It's not just spiritual. It's not just part of Jesus. It's not just part of God. It is fully God. God's full presence, God's true presence. I'm going to kneel for that. I appreciate the posture of the resurrection, the standing posture. I'm going to kneel to receive my Lord. And that's a valid spirituality. And our diocese, the leaders of our diocese, have abused that long enough. If they were to tell me, hey, you can't come back here, because this is what happens at this church specifically I'm talking about, the priest will kick you out during the lockdowns, like he kicked me out for not wearing a mask while praying alone in the church with no one around. I got kicked out. I got told by him, you can't come here anymore, and I hope you find somewhere else to pray. This is during the lockdowns. This is the student. I used to live by the school. I didn't go to the school, but during the lockdowns, there was cheap housing because all the students were leaving during the lockdowns. And so while there's almost no students attending the church, The church is open, but there's like mask mandates and whatever. But no one's in the church. I go in not wearing a mask, and he kicks me out. Now I'm getting kicked out of these things. And the student events. Even though I fit all the criteria of someone who you should at least make an exception for. If not, that should be the rule. Like if you got devout Catholics who want to come to this thing, they can come, and maybe it's special invitation or whatever if they're not in the school. But this happens at a lot of parishes where this is one example, and it's not the strongest example because they have a point to say it's just for students. But it's just one example of this repeating thing of like pushing our generation out, pushing guys like me out who've had a really tough time and who are real strong, brave men. And you keep pushing them the fuck out of church. You idiots. Who's going to fill your churches if you keep pushing out the strong, tough, good, well-meaning men who want to be saints, who want to live in a good, safe country, who want to protect the weak and vulnerable, who want to afford a house, who want to give to the community and have the means to do so and build a family and build a legacy and build their own little empire, as every man wants? What are you doing? And this priest, he's some Polish priest. And I've met a lot of very devout Catholics from Poland. St. John Paul II, one of my best friends, saint-wise, up in heaven there, he's Polish. But who is this priest? He's a Polish priest. He's a younger guy. He's super sus. He goes and talks to people after Mass to tell them why they shouldn't receive kneeling and they should stand up for the unity of the church rather than saying, oh, it's so great you want to receive on the tongue. Something's wrong with that. Something's weird with that. And there's lots of priests who aren't weird like that. I think they haven't gone through the healing. Like, that's suspect on a different level, and I think you'll understand if you're a devout Catholic. Maybe if you're not a devout Catholic, you don't understand what I'm saying with the priest being really suspect. But I think if you put two and two together, Kyle's saying this is Jesus, body, blood, soul, and divinity. Fully God, fully present, truly God, truly present. And he wants to kneel and receive Jesus on the tongue rather than standing in the hand. That makes sense. Maybe everyone should be doing that. I think you could figure that out if you're not a devout Catholic or if you haven't thought about this before. But there's other priests who will do the same kind of pushing you away. They don't recognize your potential. They don't talent hunt. They don't recognize, oh, this guy really wants to take charge of this. He really wants to lead this. Let's form him. Let's teach him stuff. I went to an art gallery with my friend. They told her all about what she had to do, how to set herself up, the steps to take to get into these galleries and start selling on this website. The priests never did that for me. I've talked to so many priests, not because I was priest hopping, but because consistently the priests would not have enough time for me. They wouldn't have any answers for my questions. And it's not like I was asking impossible questions. These are questions that a wise man should know. A priest of Jesus Christ should be wise enough to answer my questions. And I was new to the faith. Like, you should be able to answer the new guy's questions or you're doing something really wrong. And I don't just mean they gave me an answer I didn't like. I mean they didn't have the answers. Like, a lot of their answers were, I don't know. Or they would just start talking about something else. And then again with, they don't have enough time, or they say, yeah, we'll meet again, and then I can't get a hold of them. Not anything to do with me. Their problems. And I really tried to get formed. I wanted to be mentored. I wanted to be taught by Jesus, aka I wanted to be taught by priests who knew their stuff. And Jesus, like Jesus is like the meta teacher working divine providence. And none of these teachers, these priests who are supposed to be teaching us the faith, were teaching me, a young zealous man who is going to be a saint, who is a living saint. For all my faults, for all my failings, I know who I am. I'm a saint. It's not thanks to them. They didn't help me get to this point. Definitely, okay. Definitely some help. I can't say no help. But I mean, like, them, stuff I had to do on my own that should have been them. Like, it's not proportionate. They should have been doing this much. They did that much. Like, it's 15, 17, 12%. Like, it's not enough. And I've been around busy parishes. I understand busy priests, all that kind of stuff. It's not like that. They're just not leaders. They're not good people. They're not good priests. They celebrate the sacraments. Some of them celebrate the sacraments with a lot of reverence, albeit maybe misplaced reverence, because, like I said, they're not great people. They don't really understand what reverence is. But they're careful with their movements, very careful with the Eucharist, the old rite of Mass where you can only receive kneeling and on the tongue. Stuff like that. That has to be acknowledged as a good thing. Humility is seeing things as they are. One of my favorite definitions. It's a great axiom, a great principle to live by. Humility is seeing things as they are. That's like the foundation of all the virtues, is humility. You need it. It's super important. If you want to be humble, start by being grateful. Pro tip. But you got to see the good with the bad. Like when I say I'm a saint with all my faults, I'm seeing the good with the bad. I'm seeing how far I've come. I'm seeing, frankly, the grace I've received from God. I'm not saying it started with me. It doesn't start with me. And it goes back to God, to his glory. And to mine. Little case G on the glory, but like, God glories in his saints and gives glory to the saints on heaven and in earth, on earth and in heaven. And yeah, like the priests, they had reverence maybe. And I appreciate those things, but they're not good leaders. They're not good people. And they left me for dead, literally. And we're just unbelievably selfish. And like, not a community, not supportive. And it seems I'm a bellwether. Not it seems. I'm a bellwether. I go through the worst stuff. Story of my life. And it brings out the true character of people. And there's almost no one who gets it. And there is no one who helps. Like if they get it, they can't give you the help they need. And it is supposed to be like a 20-person thing. Like it's not supposed to be like one person gives you all the help you need. If I'm helping someone, if it's a serious issue, it's not all on me. If you're helping someone and it's a serious issue, it's not all on you. It's supposed to be like 20 people, just to throw a random number out there. But you're supposed to have family, community, priests, friends, best friends, aunts, uncles, grandparents, It takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a village to be a village. Like, we have this super selfish thing where everyone's living these hyper-independent lives. That's not what we're made for. And none of you are better for it. Like, there is a place for being independent. Very important. That is actually a very freeing thing for people who have had very bad lives, who have been abused, who are real victims. And there's a place for alone time, for solitude, for peace and quiet, alone with your thoughts, with the Lord, in prayer, reading a book, all that stuff. But it's not what we're doing. We're doing selfishness. We're doing other people are objects. Other people got to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. And it's not true. It's not true. And I know that unless things get really, really bad, people are never going to get a taste of the suffering I've been through. The people who don't get it, I mean. And the people who do get it, as I've talked about, well, one thing I've said is the generational hellscape is really bad. And so more people are understanding what I'm going through because they're going through it in terms of like the third world prices, the third world dangers present in our country, the third world crime, the third world corruption, the third world medical malpractice, government corruption, government spending or like spending on sinful things, this kind of stuff. We're living through that. Oh, broken communities. It starts with the broken communities, broken families, no meaningful relationships. We're going through that like we're in a frickin' radioactive chamber of all of that garbage. And so more people are getting what I'm going through. But the people who have been through what I've been through their whole lives, like me, or even like a handful of really traumatic, abusive events, they're dead, or they're strung out on drugs, or they're close to being dead, or they're involved in crime, usually all of those together. And I didn't choose that path. And I've met other young men, and I think more and more I'm meeting young men like that who are trying to come into the church. And I was never like indoctrinating them to say, you're going to be disappointed, none of that. But it did come up in conversation, like the Catholic Church is full of bad people. They're not good Catholics, they're not good people. And a devout Catholic doesn't mean you're a good person. It should mean you're a good person, because the way to become a good person is absolutely by being a devout Catholic. But these people misunderstand what that means so much that they don't become a good person. They become stuck in some part of the journey along the way to being a good person. But they're devout, as in they go to Mass every day. They pray the rosary every day. They pray like a normal Catholic would, morning, evening, when they wake up, before they go to bed, before they eat, with their family, all that kind of stuff. That's being a devout Catholic. And submitting to everything the church teaches, at least dogmatically, But then a lot of these devout Catholics, they're heretics. They don't understand the dogmas of the church. A lot of them are pseudo-heretics. So there's a lot of misconception that I could get into, but the point I'm making... What is the point I'm making? The point I'm making is we're fucked, give up. No, that's not the point I'm making. And if it sounds like that, well, that is the devil whispering in your ear. I'm not the devil, though. Please keep listening. Things can be made better. I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about how bad they are, and I'm talking about examples of what's going on. And I've met these young men who are like me, and more as we go into the world, our generation. I left home when I was young, so I've been paying my own bills since before I left home. Not everything. And I've had financial help along the way. But I've seen the skyrocketing prices since I was like a child, because I've been having to buy my own things. I was working from a young age. And people get it who are Gen Z, who are maybe in their 20s, who go rent a place, have their own car insurance, pay for all their own expenses, Like, they're like, and they don't have the safety net of their parents, for example. They get how bad things are. But the older generations are never going to get that. And, like, what's going to happen? Like, there's no passing on right now from the older generations to the younger generations, because we are the church right now, Gen Z. And there's no passing on of that mantle to us. It's more like we're going to be left with it when they all die. There's no, hey, welcome to the church. There's no, like, it's so great you're here as a young person. Like, they don't get it. They don't realize how much of a unicorn every young person who goes to church devoutly is. And they treat us like what I've been describing with the whole student dinner scenario. Oh, and with this priest who's really suspect. I think he maybe tried to talk to me last night. I didn't want to talk to him because of what I described earlier. And I get that that's not great because, you know, it's his parish. He's kind of like it's kind of like his house, you know? Like this is the dad of the household, the father of the household. I understand that. But you actually have to act like a father as a father, you know? The difference between God and a bad priest is that a priest is a father through their nature, like all men are, and through his ordination. But he doesn't act like a father, and he's a bad father. Whereas God is a father in his nature, or in his essence, I should say. He is the father, and he's a good father. That's the difference between God and a bad priest. So, didn't talk to him, but I wonder if he was scared of me just because I don't like him, you know? I don't pretend to like anyone. Like any strong man, like any civilized man, any courageous man, you know, the types that fight in wars that got killed over the last century en masse because they all went off to war. Those types of men scare cowards. And I think he got this guy today to come talk to me rather than him talking to me. And I didn't even think about till after to say, like, are you in charge? Do you run this? Okay, why is the priest not talking to me about this? Tell the priest to come talk to me about this. Because I've had it where leaders will tell someone else to come tell me something serious like that. When it should be the leader. You shouldn't send someone who's below you. And specifically with religious hierarchies, this has happened. You shouldn't be sending someone who's below you to come tell me something that's important. It should come from you. Because it's not their decision. It's your decision. And you should absolutely go talk to them. You're the leader. You're accountable. You're responsible for this. And you're a fucking coward if you don't. So, yeah, I think he cowered out of that. I think there's a pretty good chance. I don't know that for sure. But based on experience, I know that for sure. Like my point earlier, I just was silent. And more, I've been silent when people bring up issues with me. Because it's very one-sided. They don't want to enter in a relationship with me. They just criticize me. They tell me I'm not welcome. They tell me this and that. It's like, I'm not going to waste my time with debating this with you. I'll make videos and hopefully reach the whole world and do a great service to the world that way. But I'm not going to waste my time on you because you're not even wasting your time on me. And I've been around the block for too fucking long. I've seen how this goes since I was a child. I've seen how this has gone for years of being a devout Catholic, for years before that of just trying to be a very good man. And people just aren't good. It's not a two-way street. They love to gossip about me behind my back. Similarly, they like to do this. They like to criticize me, tell me what I'm doing wrong. And there's no communion. There's no two-way street because they're a bad person. And it's confusing for younger generations who, in a lot of ways, have an open heart. I think I'm more, like, I'm a good-hearted kid kind of thing. And so I'm more disposed to taking it personally when people say these things. Everyone takes it personally. If you don't take it personally, like face-to-face stuff like this, I think you're just numb. If it's not face-to-face, that's a bit different. Or if you're like a celebrity and it's like you can realize like, yeah, it's just Joe Schmo. I don't have to care about what he thinks. That's a bit different. But, you know, like normal people, normal everyday interactions, like these are the normal interactions that I go through. And it's not because I'm doing something wrong. It's not because I was rude or disrespectful or didn't put things back where I found them. I'm very civilized. I'm very respectful, especially when I'm at someone's event. These types of things. I know I just said about not talking to the priest. I think that's understandable though. Yeah. Yeah. It's not me. It is everyone else. And more people are finding that. More and more people are waking up to the fact that no, it's not my fault. You're just selfish. And the levels of selfishness in the boomers and the Gen X, it's really nasty. Like it's really like these are like bitchy men. And it's just gross. It's absolutely gross. And they're like those politicians who are too cowardly to fight a war, but they'll send you to go fight the war for them. It's like that. Like kings used to lead their armies. And now you have politicians who have never fought in the military sending generations off to the slaughter. Like, you know, early 2000s. I'm not even talking about the 20th century. I'm talking more recently than that. Like in living memory, even for me. So, yeah. That's the kind of leaders we have right now. They're not leaders. They shouldn't be leaders. And especially in the Catholic Church, not only is more expected, but they're being put in these positions, these priests, who have no business leading anything. And you'd think, well, if we're all made to be like fathers, that's all, like we all have a leadership role, right? Yeah. But you actually have to have virtue. Like you have to be virtuous to lead, you know? And certainly if you're leading a parish, like it's one thing if you have a few kids and you have to work it out. Like unless you're a shit father who's absent, if you have kids, you're there with your wife's going to be all angry and upset and you're going to be like, this is understandable because she gave birth and now these things are keeping her up 24/7, 24/8. I'm going to help her out. We're both going to be sleep deprived. And like you have to go through that as a literal biological father. If you're a decent guy. If you're a total bum and you get the fuck out, like I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about those people. But the priests don't get that. And then they're put in charge of not 2 kids. They're put in charge of 2,000 kids. They're put in charge of 200 kids. Like, they are the spiritual father to the whole parish. Their flock is their children. They're not qualified. They can't, like, they have no business doing that. They're so bad, most of them. And it's like, part of it's the formation. Most of it is they just lack life experience. Like, if you just have life experience, if you're a decent person, you just become a better person. You know, it's like decent people who get married and they stick it out and they become much better for it after decades of like struggling through it and stuff. The priests don't have that same accountability. They don't have a wife saying, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why aren't you like doing XYZ? And I don't mean like in a bitchy, inappropriate, women need to shut up kind of way. I mean like guys fucking up and the wife's going to hold them accountable. Priests, they don't get that. If anything, they get a perverted version of that, of like angry parishioners who, you know, want their folk choir to sing. Their crappy, out of tune, 90-year-old folk choir. That's not a real issue. Like, it is a real issue because you've been there maybe like 30 years and you suck at the music, but you've been there every week for rehearsals and masses every week for 30 years. Like, that's legit. That has to be commended. The hard work needs to be recognized. That's another big thing that doesn't happen in the Catholic churches with the priests, recognizing the work of the young men. Probably women too. My experience is more with like helping out, fixing up the parish, serving, that kind of stuff. But like having a ministry to the homeless unofficially at a parish, like I did a lot. It's not like just serving mass or something as limited as that. The priests don't have that accountability. If anything, they get kind of ridiculous like meltdowns. And it's like, okay, I'm sorry, priest, that you had to be spoken to that way by old lady number 5 who doesn't want us to move the ferns off of the altar or like something stupid like that, you know? But then they never really get like real criticism. I've got a lot of funny stories about that. And if they do get real criticism, they don't have the heart of the Father. They don't have the heart posture to receive that criticism. They don't have that. I live with my wife. I live with my sons. They have, my son comes on Sunday to see me and receive communion. It sounds like your son, what's the word for that? Outside the family. Ostracized. My son is, what's that word? Shunned from the family. You know what I mean? It sounds like your son is hardly your son and only sees you once a week. And doesn't even talk to you, and you have no real relationship with him. Like, that's not being a father. That's not what a priest is there to do. That's a very modern notion of, frankly, anything, not just priesthood, but being a boss, being a community member, being a teacher. Like, teachers, for crying out loud, teachers talk to their students more than the priests talk to their parishioners. And teachers get to know their students better than priests get to know their flock. Students are just being taught stuff that's like natural and career-based. Meanwhile, priests are supposed to teach you about your salvation and minister the sacraments for salvation to you. Like, these are relational, unitive sacraments that Christ gave us for our relationship with him, for our relationship with God. And they're administering these things. It's like giving someone nuclear codes on the spiritual level. And you don't even know them well like you knew your third grade teacher. Like, it's not just about spending every day in class with your third grade teacher or like university, whatever. But a lot of teachers, in my experience, they'll like talk to you outside of school hours. And I had a lot of crappy teachers, so they're not all like that. But my point is, it's way easier to find a teacher who's going to spend time to get to know you and initiate getting to know you in an appropriate way compared to a priest who will do that. And it's like, you guys are just so wrong for that. You're here called by Jesus Christ to minister to Christians, and you are a terrible father. What an empty church, eh? What an empty church when our fathers are like that, when our leaders are like that. And of course, then this applies to the broader world, because the church does shape the world. Oh, did I get my story out? Did I make my point clear? Is that clear? Things are not good. This is the problem. Don't spiritually bypass. Oh, it's all in God's hands. Yeah, it's in ours too. We write history with God. We're supposed to be angry, just like Jesus was angry when they turned his father's house into a den of thieves, money changers, and selling things in the temple. We have a modern equivalent of that that's way worse. It's more hollowed out than money changers in the temple. The kind of antithetical fatherhood I just described, that's more hollowed out, more empty than what Jesus was flipping tables over. And so I'm angry. You should be angry about this. You should know that it's right. And if you don't know that's right, I'm telling you, these priests, they're not going to be your friends. They're not going to be there for you. They're not going to lead you to holiness. They're not going to be the wisdom that a priest should be. I'm not even saying like they should be your whole answer. I'm saying they don't even have a basic level of wisdom, and they don't have life experience. Like these priests who come from foreign countries, who the fuck are you? These priests who go from high school, living at their parents' house, right to seminary, and get 3 square meals a day, a bed for the rest of their lives, no life experience. What do you know about giving marriage advice? You don't. You were taught in seminary about the sacraments and this, that, and the other. But based off what I just said, you're not qualified to be talking about these issues. And I've found that over and over with priests, over and over, with my friends, with priests, different priests, over and over, issues, over and over. They don't get it. And that's not just a priest issue, it's a generational issue. The older generations, they don't get Gen Z. They don't get what we go through. They don't get that this is a different Canada. This is a different America. This is a different West from what they grew up in. And it's their fault. Sure, you didn't set off the nuclear codes, but you stood by and watched when you should have put up a protest and when you should have made noise and you should have done things about the evil that was going on in our country. All it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. I don't see a lot of good men among the boomers, so it's even worse than evil triumphing at this point, right? Because it's not like there's a bunch of, is the saying good men or decent men? Let's say the saying's good men. All it takes for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Well, it doesn't seem like the boomers are much of a good men, and they still did nothing. So, like, we're more in the negative than if good men did nothing, because there's no good men to begin with. And it's like, yeah. I don't really argue with those people anymore. Like I said, the older generations, they don't get it. If they come in the comments saying like, oh, I get it, it's like, I don't think you do. I really don't think you do. And if you do, I'm sorry. Good for you for getting it. I don't think there's anyone who gets it, though, in the older generations. And definitely as a generation, they don't get it. And they never will. And a lot of them are figuring out this stuff too late. Never too late for salvation, but too late to make the difference we need on earth. They'll go pray for us in heaven. Good. They'll spend the last 10 years when they're 70 years old to 80 years old, living a better life, bringing grace into the world. Good. Bringing God's grace down into themselves, into the world. It'll be a difficult path, but I've met people like that. They just converted. They just started understanding what it meant to be a Catholic at 70 years old. And they look at me and they're like, it's amazing. You realize all this. And it's like, that's our grandmas? Like, they're telling us that we're further along than they are? We all love grandmas, but the grandmas we see nowadays, they're boomers, and they're really bitchy, and they're really unattractive, and I don't mean externally. Yeah, they're 70 years old. Obviously, they're wrinkly a bit. I'm talking about who they are as a person. It's deeply disturbing. It's not attractive. It's not endearing. It's not like, oh, grandma. It's like, what the hell, lady? It's, all the political crap, the far left crap, the let your country fall to ruins with immigration and we have no identity and everything's okay. And I have a cottage, so I don't care what's going on in the city. Because in the winter, I just go live in my tiny apartment. And then we have a lovely cottage during the summer. Or we have a property over in the countryside where we don't have to be near you poor people. Like, this generation has got it set. We don't have that. We live in the poop hellscape of little India that you've created. And I'm not saying this is a dig against the Indians specifically, although against them as well. Brampton is a terrible place. It's a third world country. What are you doing, Sandu? So there's that, the poop hellhole, like India, where our country is a disgusting, deteriorating place. I live in one of the worst cities, so I'm biased. But if you're American and you think of like Chicago and Los Angeles put together, Skid Row, and like you're going to get stabbed or shot by any black guy who walks by you who looks a little bit suspect, put those together. And I'm not saying it's just the black guys, but these are the stereotypes of these places. It's third world, criminals rule, drugs prevail, homelessness prevails. We didn't do that to our country. You people, the older generations, they did that to our country. And they don't get it. Again, they might spend their last 10 years finally getting it before the dementia kicks in and they're getting walked around by the nice old Filipinos, or God forbid, the terrible Indian nurses who have low nursing standards and yet somehow became nurses here, or PSWs working like minimum wage an hour to look after your grandpa in the hospital. That doesn't make sense. Pay him a bit better, train him, use real Canadians. They're never going to get it. Those people who are realizing now, they're never going to get it. They're not changing the world. They're out of the game. It's up to us. But again, that's not what I'm talking about in this video. I'm talking about where it's at. Again, you should be angry about this. By the way, anger is not a bad thing. It's there to move us towards justice. It moves us to make videos like this. It moves us to try to build meaningful relationships. It builds us to take a stand against tyranny, against injustice, whether big or small or medium injustice, whether it's at your church or it's a massive protest like the truckers rally or the end the lockdown protests in downtown Toronto, all that kind of stuff, big to small, one-on-one, talking to your fellow man in Canada, all the way to, you know, the nationwide stuff. Like, we have to stand up to this stuff. And that's what the anger is there for. The anger is there for a good reason. And if you're not angry, you're either too comfortable or you don't care about us. And sadly, I see a lot of my generation still holding on to the worst things of the boomers. Like, some people I know who are my age, they are the worst parts of boomers. They're comfortable because they live with their parents and they don't have to pay anything. They're idealistic. They don't get reality. They don't have experience of what the modern day world is like for us young people. They're out of touch with the issues. They're selfish. And if they come to events, they just come to get something out of it. They don't come for you. They don't come for the friendship. They don't do life with you. They're all the worst parts of the boomers. Politically correct, you name it. It's not like you'll find the whole frickin' color wheel there. You might find, you know, far left, politically correct, blue hair. And then on the other one, you might find like selfish, doesn't contribute anything to the community. comfortable in both of those, doesn't have to go through modern day struggles. Like, think of someone, you know someone like this, or you're someone like this. I don't think you're an hour into this video, though, if you're someone like that. I've been swearing at you too much. And I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry about it. So, there you go. That's my rant. And let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you want me to talk about. If you like this, if you are like, wow, I heard you say this one thing, I'd like you to make a video on that. Let me know. I'd like to elaborate. I'd like to get more into it. If you hear some gems, because I just generationally vomited all over you people with everything. Not everything. That's tip of the iceberg with like a couple examples of real life things that have happened to me or to people I know, or both. Like, it wasn't vomit, man. It was like skimming the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of problems we have that I didn't even get to. I could go for weeks talking about the problems, and it wouldn't be like a complaining thing. It would be like, there's a backlog of us not being protected and provided for as Gen Z, and we have not been stood up for by the older generations, and we have to do it. And when that happens, when the child has to become the parent because the parent is not parenting, everything is exponentially worse. The load that falls on us is way greater than if it had just been taken care of like it was supposed to by the authorities, by the parental figures, the coaches, obviously parents, teachers, government leaders, church leaders, lawmakers, all those people, the older people, anyone older than you is a parental figure. So all the parental figures, especially boomers and Gen X. Gen X is kind of turning out to be like just as nasty as the boomers. It's like disappointing. I thought they wouldn't, but that's been my experience so far. Anyway, that's why there's so much to share, because it's all falling on us. You guys, if you're not Gen Z, you don't get that probably. You don't get the load you've put on us. Are you maybe out there, you people who like just did your part, did what you were told to do, worked your job, paid your taxes, contributed to your pension? Yeah. But is that an excuse? Is that like, yeah, you did the right thing and this kind of happened outside your control? I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I'm leaning towards no. I'm leaning towards you're still responsible for this, because that's who you are. As that generation, you are responsible for who comes after you. And I think it's accurate to say these people don't have the hearts of fathers and mothers. And so they are culpable, because by abdicating that part of them to be fathers and mothers to all those who come after them, you are neglecting your duty and causing the very thing I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm done with arguing with people. Or more so, I'm just finally letting go of putting all this pressure on myself to fix all these things and try to fix people and convince people how blind they are. Not that I would say like, you're blind and like stupid stuff. I don't mean it like that. I just mean like having an honest conversation. I'm realizing almost no one is there for the honest conversation. And I think our generation, all the young men who got woken up by Jordan Peterson and got virtue pilled, who realized we had to live virtuous lives, who started realizing pornography is destroying us, and for years have been trying to live a better life, to get off their addictions, to be virtuous, hopefully being Catholic pilled, becoming Catholic, becoming devout Christians, good men who love the Lord and live life with Him. We're kind of the first generation really taking responsibility in memory. There's no generation in recent memory who took responsibility in the West for anything. And someone messed all this up. It wasn't one guy. It wasn't us. We're just growing up. Us, Gen Z. It wasn't us. We're just growing up. We're just kids, young adults, still kids. Like if you're in your 20s, you're still a kid in a lot of ways. Not really, you're not 15, but I think you can understand what I'm getting at. And I've just realized you can't talk to a lot of people. Like I said, make these videos, try to change the world, try to be the change I want to see, start businesses, make the products, the good products I want to see, build the culture I want to see, run the events I want to see run, be the friend I want, encourage the virtues everyone should have, all that kind of stuff, and live it out myself. What I'm saying is, I'm realizing, on behalf of my generation, message to my generation, Gen Z, and to Gen Alpha when you're old enough to watch this. Recognize that the older generations are lost. Don't focus on them. Don't put your energy into them. Fix the world. Put your energy into fixing the present and the future going forward. Now, if you have like a good relationship with your parents, don't neglect them and stuff, obviously. What I'm saying is recognize that those older generations, they're not there for you. They're not in your corner. They're not protecting you. They're not standing up for you. They're treating you like the Industrial Revolution 200 years ago, where they get you to work abysmal shifts. They don't care if you get hurt working. They got child labor. They got frickin' accident cover-ups. It's just a very inhuman. You're not a human working. You're another cog in the factory machine. That's how we're treated. That's how the older generations look at us. As a generation. Not all of them, there's some good ones, but as a generation, that's the experience we get in the societal contract. We get treated like an object. But it's not just at work. It's at the schools. It's at the institutions, the churches, the family gatherings. Like, it's every level. We don't have the safety net. Oh gosh. I told you, we're only tip of the iceberg. The problems are a lot, okay? And I'm here, 23, spending all my income on basic necessities, explaining this for you. Get it together. But I'm saying don't worry about the generations getting it together. Like, don't put your energy into that. Don't lose sleep over it. Because they're done. Like, you can't save them in a meaningful way other than the gospel. Of course, it's never too late for that. But everything else, it's like, forget about it, man. You're not waking them up to what they've done and the horrors that our generation goes to. It's like they're too selfish to understand it. Not to mention they didn't grow up with the internet. So, I bow again. Pray for me, please. God bless you, first of all. Thank you for your prayers. Please pray for me. God bless you guys. I'm praying for you. Let me know what you think. Let me know what other topics you want me to talk about. Okay. God bless.